Hey guys, it's me, John Venegas. Welcome back to the Infinite Canvas podcast. I just want to give some really quick announcements before we begin. First, our show is also on iTunes, so if you could listen to it there as the primary way of listening to us, it would be fantastic, and leave us a rating. I just want to let you guys know really quick, we do have to come up with new ideas every week, and that is a daunting task for us considering we do have things to do outside of the show. Now, we hope that you guys will understand, but we're going to be updating every other Tuesday from now on. So the next episode will be uploaded on November 28th, and we really do hope that you guys understand. Also wanted to remind you guys that you can also follow us on social media. You can follow us at Sci-Star Comics or CanvasCast on Twitter, or our Facebook page, Sci-Star Entertainment. The Unknown. We always try to understand what we can't, and in doing so, we create ways to cope with mysteries. The ancients created their own pantheons to understand nature. The modern day has brought us science. Mythology has guided and shaped Western storytelling ever since it has existed. Our fascination with the hero's journey and gods of yesteryear have brought us characters like Marvel's Thor or Star Wars' Luke Skywalker. It has even inspired new mythologies like those of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings or H.P. Lovecraft's mythos. Core aspects of these stories are archetypical and will always remain unchanged, but new storytellers recreate them, bringing in their own sparks of inspiration and their own experiences. This week on the Infinite Canvas, John and David try to reinterpret some old myths. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Infinite Canvas podcast. I am John Venegas.
And I'm David Foz.
And as promised, we are here today with our mythological figures. Last week we were given the challenge of coming up with our own versions of what we would consider like a Thor kind of character. A character who is from another mythology. Foreign to the one that we acknowledge, like foreign to the ones that we're comfortable with, the ones that we all acknowledge. A la the Norse gods, the Greek gods, Egyptian gods. And we wanted to kind of bring them to life in a new, different way. And David, if you want to tell us who you picked, I wouldn't be offended at all by hearing what you got.
Okay. I went pretty, I hope it's pretty out there from what I picked. I decided to stay in our neck of the woods, I guess, or at least in our side of the hemisphere, and I went with our good friends, the Aztecs.
Nice.
Yeah, I chose an Aztec
Some familiarity.
God. Yes. I had no clue how to pronounce this name.
Does it have 13 letters and like 3 Qs?
No. It has, I think, like 20 letters and no Qs. But no, good. I mean, thank God that Wikipedia had a pronunciation clip on there. So, according to Wikipedia, the god I chose is pronounced Huitzilopochtli? Huitzilopochtli. I think.
I hope you gave it an abbreviation. I'm not saying that. No offense to the Aztecs. I can't say that.
Don't offend all those Aztecs out there. Oof. But no, yeah, I did give him a different name. Totally different. It's based off the name he was given, but it's completely different from this. But yes, that is who I chose. The Aztec god Huitzilopochtli, which is which is the god of the sun and human sacrifice.
Okay. Weird mix, but sure.
They have very little gods, but the gods they do have are gods of multiple things that don't have anything related to each other. So
that's okay.
It's very confusing, but yes, I'm sorry.
There's also the god of oak trees and thunder. I mean, some of the things aren't really related.
Yeah, thunder strikes trees. Duh.
Okay, I guess that's close.
Okay.
Now I stuck around with I picked a god. Well, I didn't pick a god per se. So the story that I wanted to tell kind of has two parts, so it requires the telling of the story of two characters,
Mm-hmm.
and they're related. One is the child of the other one, and so then I felt like their stories really needed to be told together for this particular interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
So for the god character, I chose Ninsun, and I don't know that's how you pronounce it, but I believe that's how you say it, Ninsun. She is a Babylonian or Akkadian goddess, whatever you want to say. I'm gonna go with Babylonian,
Okay.
and in turn, the thing is though is that Ninsun is a goddess. She was known as the Lady of the Wild Cows.
Wild cows?
Yeah, yeah.
As in moo cows?
No, the thing is though, that's not her. That's not her patronage. That's just
Okay.
what she's known as.
Okay.
Far as I can tell, she's not a patron goddess of anything. She's just kind of like the mother of a god. The mother of somebody else is important.
Okay.
And so I kind of wanted to play her up as being more important. And then I picked her son as the focal point for the story. You know, they're both focal points, but they play off each other. Her
Okay.
her son Gilgamesh. And I know that a lot of people are familiar with Gilgamesh.
Yeah, that sounds
he's-
very familiar to me.
Yeah. He is actually, in mythology, he is 1/3 human and 2/3 god. In my interpretation, he's just human. So,
Okay.
that's the thing. So, my character, he doesn't transform or anything. He's not like Thor, and I'm talking like pre-MCU Thor, where he has to like drop a cane or whatever and turns into Thor, and you know the cane turns into Mjolnir. I don't have that,
Yes.
but if you wanted to, do you want to hear a little bit more about Gilgamesh and Ninsun and my interpretation of the mythology?
Okay. Quick thing
Since I'm
before
already-
you do. How much of this is based off the truest source material, and how much of this is like completely made up?
Okay, so beat per beat, I wanted to go off of the source material. For me, it was more of a reinterpretation of how the story was told and changing perspectives.
Okay.
The story of Ninsun doesn't really have any stories. She's kind of usually just a wise old mother figure. She's always kind of portrayed that way, where she doesn't really take part in the stories. She's kind of like just like the mom character in the background. Like Gilgamesh had to get his godly power from somewhere, so he had to have a godmother.
Yeah. Okay.
So I kind of want to like yin yang this when it comes to the story. So if this became a thing, I would want it to be kind of done as like two graphic novels.
Okay.
Where each book, it's 2 books, each book tackles that character's story. So it's kind of like how It, the movies, and the book, I guess, how It kind of tells the same story, but from 2 different time periods. And unlike It, I don't want to bounce back and forth, because that's confusing. I wanted to do it where it's just all in the past, we're done, all in the, well, it's not present, and we're done. Which, now that I brought that up, I kind of have to mention that both stories take place in the past. Our past, at least. Alright, so the way it works is the gods are, and I'm just going to ask you a really quick question. In your interpretation of your story, are the gods magic or are the gods sci-fi?
If I'm gonna choose between both, they're magic.
Okay. Now, I only ask that because, and I know a lot of you guys out there might not be familiar with this because you guys are just now hearing us. David really likes fantasy. If it is any indication from our last episode, when we were discussing our favorite movies, his favorite series is Lord of the Rings, whereas mine is Back to the Future. Now, as you can see here, that when David writes stories, whenever we come up with ideas, he tends to have very fantastical ideas, whereas I like to root mine in sci-fi because I kind of want to imagine that this technology can exist someday in our future. Now, when I write things, they tend to be science fantasy, so there's still like a a realm of aura and mystery, and I kind of try my best to like explain that mystery, but still leave some things vague for interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the Anunnaki are the gods that I chose for this. Now they're not gods in the traditional sense. They're more like the gods in the MCU. They're just another species. They're just
Okay.
advanced compared to humans. Now I really liked this idea where the Anunnaki would be more or less machines compared to us. Because that's what they are. They're machines at this point. They evolved to the point where they can separate their souls from their bodies. Now, when I say souls, I don't mean like the literal soul, because in this universe, I'm assuming that the soul doesn't exist. I'm kind of extracting the supernatural from this. When I say soul, I mean mental energy, like the processes of your mind. They're transferred, copied into a machine. Now, by technicality, you have died and you're making a copy of yourself. But it's still you. Like, it's the essence of you. And, what's up?
I was gonna say, I know many people say that they are one and the same, but wouldn't that rather be the consciousness rather than the soul?
Yeah, no, that's what it is. It's just your conscious mind. Now, I'm not going to go into debate over the theology of the real world, but for the sake of this story, it's just it's all in your noggin. That's where your soul is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, not gonna offend anyone with that.
No, I mean, that's my interpretation of it. If you want to believe there's a soul and the soul is being ripped out, go for it. That's basically the same thing that's going on. It's just your soul is in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in your brain.
Okay.
Tomato. Now this sets up the story, actually. The whole idea of how the Anunnaki are made actually sets up the whole arc for how everything goes. Now, the way an Anunnaki is created, I mean their mechanical bodies, is their minds are separated from their bodies and placed into machines. Now, the process of doing this involves a creature known as the Deluge. The Deluge is what can be described as how humans have cattle, like not cattle, but like how humans have their big tough animals. The same can be said for the Deluge. The Deluge is another species, but from the Anunnaki homeworld. Deluge, the way they operate is in the same way as like a squid kind of like lets out ink. Ink is sent out as a defense mechanism, and it blinds whoever it hits. It creates a smoke screen. The Deluge does something different. It actually emits a psychic field of energy. And by the way, those of you at home listening, psychic is a sci-fi way of saying magic, by the way, because obviously it's not real, but it's our way of still having magic, but making it sound real. It unleashes a psychic field of energy, and what it does is it separates the soul from the body. Now, the problem with the Deluge is that when they were on the homeworld of Nemesis, they operate in a vast field, and their field of influence is massive, as large as like a continent, basically. Now their homeworld is huge; it's several times larger than the Earth. But for the Deluge, there are not very many of them, but they operate in this vast area. So for the most part, they're kind of unknown, and they're kind of like in the Badlands. Now the Anunnaki have found a way to harness this power by locking them up inside of a chamber, and if your will is strong enough, if you enter the chamber, your soul is ripped out, and it can be harnessed. Now, the only problem is if your soul is not strong enough, it will disintegrate. And that's kind of what's kind of being used here as the catalyst for the story. Now, I don't want to go too much into the story because I think we wanted to talk more about the characters. Now, for the Anunnaki, they're considered vastly intelligent, superior to us basically in every way. Their bodies appear as machines, but since humanity didn't know what machines were back in BC and the BC era, kind of just interpreted them as, otherworldly and gods. That's a way of explaining how, like, we always describe the gods as, like, giving off an aura of light, because the machines
Yeah.
literally had light emitting from them and were very reflective. And I actually like that
Hmm.
idea, because if you ever look up some Middle Eastern deities and see how they're drawn, they're usually kind of flat, kind of like how like the Egyptian gods are flat, and they seem to appear human, but there's still something off about them. They, and I thought that would be kind of cool. Their appearance, I thought would be like their armor is decorative. It's embedded with like gold and stuff, and that's what inspired humans to kind of like get gold. It's like, oh, this stuff is of the gods. We want to dress like them. They're right underneath of the where you would say the mouth is. There's like this pattern that emerges. It's kind of like a net. Humans try to emulate that, and which is why they have like the braided beards,
Hmm.
enroped with gold chains and stuff. And that's where I thought it would be kind of cool to have that interpretation. It just they're trying to emulate the designs of the gods, and one human doesn't actually worship them. She sees them for what they
Hmm.
are. They are just frauds. They are only machines that have come down from the heavens in order to steal our resources. This human being
Hmm.
is Ninsun, who, if you might have heard me earlier say, is a goddess. She's not a
Yeah.
goddess yet. She's a human being.
Okay. But in your world, the other gods are machine.
Yes, they appear as machines.
So they appear machine, but they're not machines.
Okay, no, they are. You could say they are gods and machines. Like they are the souls. They're natural souls, but
Hmm.
they operate on machines. If they were
Okay.
removed from the machine, they would wither away. There is no. I'm assuming there is no afterlife in this world. Like I don't know if there actually is or not, but in this world, for the most part, if your soul is destroyed or ripped away, you just disintegrate and enter the void. There is nothing after that. And so then the
Okay.
Anunnaki found a way to like kind of divert that. Um, for the most part, they're immortal because as long as they're near the home base, when their soul is destroyed, they just get sent back to the home base.
Yeah.
Which is why humans kind of interpret gods as immortal because they basically are compared to humans.
Hmm.
In this time, Ninsun didn't know what machines were because humanity didn't know what machines were. And the thing about that is that she has no way of like convincing the other human beings that the Anunnaki are not who they say they are. What
Hmm.
contributes to this is that her personality kind of doesn't help. She's kind of a douchebag.
Hmm.
uh, Now here's the thing. It's one of those things where if you ever meet somebody who's an atheist, they tend to be when they have just become atheists, they tend to be kind of I want to say jerks, kind of obnoxious, and I'm kind of going off of that for Ninsun, where that's how she is.
Yeah.
She's kind of obnoxious. She feels like she knows everything. That's the kind of person she is. She's young at this point. She's like a young adult.
Hmm.
She's very intelligent. There's no debate that she's the smartest person of her tribe. She's very intuitive, very skeptical, and
Hmm.
just does not like the Anunnaki. She just doesn't trust them because she sees them for what they are. They're naturally occurring things. She just doesn't know how to explain it. And that's the problem with trying to explain something that you can see is not true, but everyone else
Yeah.
doesn't see it. They see the illusion because humans are impressionable. They are very easily convinced with magic tricks.
Yeah. That's why everyone loves magic.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like a magic trick? But Ninsun's not satisfied with that. She wants to know how the magic works. The gods are not very happy with her because she's very pestering. She tends to get out of her way to go see the gods, and for the most part, some of the gods are kind of cool with her. There's a god Anu. Anu is pretty chill with her. Uh, in mythology, Anu, I believe, is her father. Anu is not her father in this interpretation. He's just another god. Now, here's the thing: is because I kind of wanted to go off of the whole humanity tends to kind of venerate their dead. to the point where they become gods, or two seemingly unconnected things are connected. And that's a common theme in mythology. Like, there's a theory that says that Zeus was a real human man that was just venerated years and years and years and years and years. And since humans didn't have a way of writing, they were just stories. And eventually Zeus just became a god. And then he didn't just become a god, he became the king of the gods. And there's this asshole out there who lived a long time ago named Zeus, who would just go around and have a bunch of kids, and he's a god now. Like, what?
No, it's just this kind of reminds me of the Hercules movie with The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember that. If I remember correctly, that was the same premise there, where they were just coming up with stories of Hercules Rock doing all these, doing the chores he was tasked to do, like in the legends, but they all turn out to be just fake, just all story. And yeah, I always thought that was funny from the movie. But I like how you took inspiration. I don't know if you've seen the movie.
I have not seen this movie.
Okay. I just like those two little connections, because I love that part or that idea in the movie, and that's why I'm kind of liking this too. Sorry, you may continue.
Oh no, it's good. It's good. I like this. Comparisons to other things. It's always good to either influence things away from things or influence them towards things, or just acknowledging the influences, not the parallels to other things. Okay, so Ninsun has her story arc. I don't know if we wanted to touch on that at some other time, or if we wanted to do that now. I don't know if you mind if I can like very briefly give her story arc.
Oh no, go for it.
Okay.
I mean, that's what pretty much I prepared for mine. Mostly is a story arc with a little bit of backstory, but
okay,
yeah, you go for it.
Here's the thing though, for Gilgamesh's arc, if anybody knows the Epic of Gilgamesh, it's basically that. I kind of wanted to tell Ninsun's story, but I also wanted to tie it in with Gilgamesh's story, just because the way I interpreted Gilgamesh is kind of badass, and I really, really liked it. So for Ninsun, her story arc becomes one of she's trying to disprove the existence of the Anunnaki. Or not the existence, but she's trying to disprove that they are holy. She wants to prove that they are natural and that they are from another world. They're demons, essentially. Now, she's not going to outright say demons, because she doesn't really think that. She just, like, in their limited terminology, she would describe them as demons. Because what are they doing? They're just taking her shit. That's what they're doing. They're not offering anything.
Just trying to prove that they're liars.
Yeah, she's just trying to prove that they're just... And here's the thing. And I know that somebody might find this as an influence, and I realize this now, so I'm going to mention it. It's just like how... it's like a colonialism thing. Think of like... oh god, now that I know there's a parallel to it, I'm gonna hate saying this. Think of Pocahontas. It's like that. It's a bunch of people who are superior, or think they're superior, show up, and then try to take everything and conquer, and they're like, oh, the people here are stupid anyways. It's not like they can fight back. We have lasers. They're beyond lasers at this point.
Yeah.
They have, like... They basically just have cannons that can, like, shoot, like, freaking sound. Like, that's probably more useful than a laser, because you can kill more with that. And then if you don't kill somebody, now they're deaf. It's a win-win.
Sure.
Now, for her, she wanted to disprove that, and she kind of got a lot of people on board. Now there's a lot of humans out there who really, really, really hate the Anunnaki. They're trying to fight back, and now there's these civil, like little civil discourses where, you know, within the same tribe, people are killing each other in the name of the gods, and some of them are just kind of, you know, not digging it. Now, what they've done is there's a group of them that have created a secret plan. Now they haven't told anybody else about this. And I know you're going to hate me for saying this, because we actually talked a little bit about this for a different comic idea that we had. Where the gods, Enlil, Ninurta, Enugi, and Enki,
have decided to open up the chambers for the deluge and throw it out into the ocean. And what it would do is it would unleash its energy across the entire continent and flood everyone. Now, here's the thing. Humans don't have enough willpower to fight back against the deluge, so their souls will be destroyed. Mm-hmm. And so then Enki decides, not all the humans are that bad. We're only getting rid of them so we can take their resources anyways. We just kind of want to get them out of the way so that we don't have to feel so bad about it. And here's the thing. These gods are doing this in secret and making it look like an accident. So the only guilt will be on them. The other gods, the other Anunnaki, will be like, oh, what a tragedy. It just happened, We'll be more careful next time. But for this group, they're just like, no, this is totally a legit thing we're trying to do. And so then, Enki at this point, actually, he's not one of the ones that decides to do it. He actually hears about this and threatens to tell the others. The other Anunnaki, basically hold him at a gunpoint and they're just like, you could tell everybody, or you could keep this hush-hush between us. And so then he's kind of forced to go along with it. And he decides to have his own little secret plan and creates a lifeboat where he's going to go find the very best humans and put them on there. It's it's an ark. It's an ark. It's what it is. So he goes to find a couple of humans. He puts on Utnapishtim, who is in Gilgamesh's story. In this version of it, Utnapishtim is kind of kiss ass. He's a kiss ass. He is very like, yes, I agree. You gods, I'm making it sound like John Oliver. yes, very well. Mm-hmm. It's like, you gods, very, very, very great. Yes, you are magnificent. We adore you. We'll do anything you say. I just want to live. He's that kind of person. And so then, for this story, I kind of had him and Ninsun on the ship together. And so it's like this competent, Ninsun is a very competent person, very knowledgeable. She knows what she's doing. She doesn't want to get on the ship at first, but Utnapishtim is just like, she's not that bad. We could totally have her on here. It's not just gonna kill you all or anything. She's kind of just a human. And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? And so then both of them are on the ship. There's a couple of other people. Utnapishtim brought his wife, and like a bunch of other people. And Enki kind of just throws them out. And then the deluge is activated, and its power is so great that it just starts killing people. And it kind of moves around the ocean at some point. And, it affects water, and it basically just floods everything, literally and metaphorically. It floods everyone's minds, and it floods the entire continent. And that explains the flood. It's the deluge, which, by the way, just means flood. If it wasn't obvious to anybody who knew what it was called, they should have seen that coming. And so then, at this point of the story, it actually becomes a horror story, kind of, where they're on the ship. And the way that the deluge stops is if it's starved. If it starves itself, not starves, but if it doesn't sense any danger, it'll stop. So, if it doesn't sense any psychic energy, it'll just stop. If it senses that the psychic energy around it is not hostile, it'll also stop. It's not stupid. It'll stop at some point. And the thing is it eventually kind of calms down. And then it notices the ship. It notices the ark. It's just floating. And it knows that ark comes from the main ship. So it tries to destroy it. And so the ship is designed to keep the people inside safe. But now it's actually going around and trying to poke in and destroy it. And I don't want to give away how it ends there, because that's the big part of the story where we kind of see how Ninsun convinces the humans to kind of work with her and stuff. Utnapishtim kind of mans up a little bit. He's not just a yes man. He tries to do something on his own for once. And they all kind of they all kind of do their thing. Now, spoiler alert, they do at least for the very least, Utnapishtim, his wife, and Ninsun survive. because they kind of have to be in Gilgamesh's story. And the gods basically grant immortality to Utnapishtim and his wife. At first, they didn't want to give it to Ninsun because they didn't want her to give her credit for what she did. But Anu decides to do so. And when I say immortality, I mean rip their souls out of their bodies and put them into robots.
Yeah, that's the only. Yeah, that's the answer. Be a robot.
Be a robot. And that explains how they have godhood status. Well, technically only Ninsun has godhood status. Utnapishtim and his wife are just, they kind of just roam the world. It was their reward, but they soon learn it's actually not a reward. It's more of a punishment. Not a punishment, but a curse. And in Gilgamesh's story, he starts off as an asshole. He has everything he wants. Now here's the thing. For Ninsun, it was a story of rags to riches, basically. She started off at the very bottom and made herself all the way up to the top. For Gilgamesh, it's a story of privilege, of having everything that you want at all times, and how it affects other people. How you can take what you want from others who don't have much. That's the kind of person he is. Now, I've been rambling on for too long, so I'm just going to kind of like, because I want you to have a turn. For Gilgamesh, really
well, I was going to say, was he supposed to be like a Robin Hood?
What's that?
Is he like a Robin Hood then? Like, take from the rich, or does it matter
who
who
he
he
doesn't give a
takes from?
shit who he takes from. It's his. It's like, the best way to describe it's like Cusco from Emperor's New Groove. It's like, it's all mine! It's all mine! That's how he is. So if it isn't obvious, his story arc is basically like learning not to be a dick. He has everything, but there's one thing he can't have. And you know what that probably is?
Love.
Well, yeah, friendship, but like true friendship. He doesn't give a shit about love. Actual, like, in his story, the gods kind of like get fed up with him. But it's actually humans that get fed up with him, and they tattletale to the gods and like, "Can you kill this guy for us, please?" And they're like, "We're too busy for that. Let's just go make something in our lab really quick." And they just kind of like just make another Gilgamesh, essentially, his counterpart.
Yeah,
the Vegeta to his Goku, which is what it is. So I'm not making this up because I'm just going beat for beat from this story. Now tell me if this sounds familiar. The new guy, his name is Enkidu, is tasked with killing Gilgamesh. He goes down there and they find out that they're equals, and then Gilgamesh is like, "Man, you're really strong, you know that?" It's like, "Yeah, I know, I work out." Hey dude, like, we're tied. "Yeah, I know. Like, you can't kill me." "No, I probably can't. And I can't kill you." "Oh, definitely not. How about we become bros instead?" "Oh, heck yeah!" And they just become best friends instead. Now, the way I wanted to see Gilgamesh is I actually kind of wanted to see him with, like, he's a human being, but he, because his mom is Anunnaki, she kind of, like, figured out a couple of different things with the tech, because her mind has basically accelerated in thinking. And he has this really cool, like, tech. Now, basically every time they ever say the word stones in the original text, I'm just, like, interpreting that as Anunnaki tech. Because there's a guy who's, like, he has magnificent stones, and, like, he's, like, a ship crafter to go find Utnapishtim. Yeah, that's just a spaceship guy. Like, he makes spaceships. Now, for Gilgamesh, his main thing is he has these boots. The boots that he wears are, he didn't have, like, special boots in the original version. I kind of gave them to him. Because in the original version, at some point he went underwater, and he had to go to the bottom. Now, in order to get down there, what he did is he tied some stones to his feet, and he just jumped in there. So the stones would drag him all the way down. And I thought it would be cool if, going off of the whole stones or tech thing, that the stones are actually boots. They're boots that can change the density of whoever wears them, so that he can, A, be really, really heavy, or B, be very, very light. And so then it's kind of like combining Hercules, like the Herculean kind of characters. He's like peak physical condition. He's like the best human a human can be. And kind of like mixing him in with Vision, where like he can just change his density at will.
First I thought you said he's gonna be Zelda.
What's that?
I mean, sorry, Link.
Oh
I
boy.
thought you were gonna have him be Link. Because he has the heavy boots where he sinks and then you can just take them off and float.
Yeah, it's like that, but with a setting.
Yeah.
There's that. His goal is to gain immortality.
Mhm.
And so then they tell him, it's like, a long time ago, there was this thing that tried to kill us all. And what it did was, it rips your soul out and it puts it in a robot. And they're like, that sounds really interesting. I think I want that. And his mom is just like, no, Gilgamesh, don't do that. And he's like, Mom, I know you want to stop me. And I know that and I want you to know this. You can't stop me. And she's like, I know I can't stop you. So fine, do what you want. I'm not going to stop you. But you're going to learn that no matter what you do, it's not going to work. And he's like, Mom. And so then he tries to go get immortality. And in the process, Enkidu dies. He gets killed.
Mhm.
And then, he mourns and he's just like, oh shit. That's not good. Yeah, I'm still gonna get the immortality thing though. And so then he kind of he goes through a rage and ends up like breaking a bunch of shit. And then he decides he's gonna go find Utnapishtim, who supposedly has the last part of the deluge that was destroyed. And he goes to find him. Turns out that hey, immortality's bad, dude. And then it's like, I've lived for thousands of years and it's absolute shit. I wish I could die, but suicide's not an option. It just like destroy my body. My soul just pops back up on that ship and it just over and over and over again. I've asked to turn it off, but apparently I can't do that. And so then he's like, okay, look, I know what you're saying. I know that you're trying to dissuade me from being immortal, but I still want it. And then he's just like, fine, I know I can't stop you, just take the damn thing. And then he's just like, yes, it's at the bottom of the ocean. Fuck! So, he eventually gets it, but it doesn't work the way he thinks it works, and eventually loses it. Bummer. He learns to live his life and then dies. Of old age. He's fine. He'll be really old.
How ironic.
I mean, it's a downer, but he learns to accept his fate. That's like the crux of humanity. And I think that's what I wanted to tell. It's like, that's the reason I wanted to tell both stories. Because I wanted it to show that you can be optimistic, right? You can learn to grow and learn to be what you want. Like the gushy thing where it's like, you can be whatever you want to be, which is Ninsun's story.
Yeah.
But I also want people to know that they also have their limits, and you can't have everything you want. Which is why I wanted Gilgamesh's story to be told right after Ninsun's, because I wanted both stories to be told together. You can't have one without the other. You gotta be optimistic and realistic. You can't just be one or the other. Now, I don't have a pessimistic story, but, if I'm not doing a third part, I'm sorry.
No.
Alright. I rambled on for way too long. It is your
It's
turn.
all good.
I want to hear what you gotta say.
Oh. It is my turn, isn't it? God. Well, at least for my character I chose, I mostly stuck to the, I wanted to have the first issue, the attention grabber, so that, whenever you walk into the comic book store or something, and you see this book on there, I want to be able to grab you with that first book, or the first comic. So I just stuck to that one issue. All this information I'm going to go over would not be technically in that first issue. You'll slowly gain that. But yeah, I'm going to go with the complete backstory, and then I'll go ahead and to the idea for my first issue here. So, like I said, the god I chose was an Aztec god called Huitzilopochtli, I think. I did not want to say that over and over again, so I called him Torch. Okay? The reason I specifically chose Torch was because this god translated, his name is called the Left Hand and Hummingbird. And I looked up hummingbird, and one of its scientific name has torch in it. I can't remember which one it is, but one of the scientific name a hummingbird has is torch. So that's what I chose to nickname him after, Torch. Okay, I did change pretty much everything from his history, because there's like very little information about the Aztec mythology. Or I'm pretty sure there is a lot, but I would have to do days of research probably, and I just don't have time for that. So, in my story, I based it off the comic universe that John had mentioned in the beginning that I created. The comic series was going to be called Pantheon, and I based it off that same world, the same universe. And in this universe, Torch is not a normal god. Okay, he's not like a Greek gods or the Romans or the Egyptian god. He's not from this world. He's from a pocket world. You know, it's not a different universe or anything like that. He's strictly from a different dimension in our universe. He just lives. There's just a thin veil that separates his world from our world. And one of the big differences that Torch has than his counterpart is that he has 3 other brothers. Okay, and I did come up with names for them, and I told John that one, I am horrible with coming up names, as you can probably notice from our first episode, and me naming my villains. But I gave them names. Okay, he has his younger brother. I called him Mask. It's a weird name, but I just went Mask. He has a...
Wait, is that Mask with a K?
Yes.
Okay.
It's spelled just like mask, like what you put on your face. Mask. I know it's a weird name, but again, I'm really bad at coming up with names.
It's alright.
And he has 2 middle brothers. One, I called him Keen, and the other one, Zalis. Okay?
What was that?
Zalis.
Zalis?
Yeah, Zalis.
Like Gonzalez, but without the gun?
No. Spelled completely differently.
But it's pronounced the same way.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Zalis.
Okay.
Okay, so I did not only take influence from Aztec mythology, I also took some influence from Christianity as well. I based the villain off of, I am going to be very original here. I based them off the 7 sins. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Very original, I know.
No,
and
it's fine.
I know, it's just that everyone always goes with either the 7 sins or the 4 horsemen. And I was like, well, I'm already dipping my toe into this. I'll just go for both. So I based them off both the 7 deadly sins and the 4 horsemen. Okay?
Are you combining them or adding them together?
No, I'm combining them. And before you start thinking I'm gonna have 7 enemies or villains in this, I don't. I only have 3. But they all have influences based off those 7, 4, 12. No wait, 11. Yeah, 11 entities. Okay. Before I get to the villains, a quick backstory. I'll go into the backstory of Torch. Okay, so again, he's from a different universe, or a pocket world, and he comes over to our world, and he comes to us with the power of a god, which is why they call him a god. So he created life in his area, and him and his other 3 brothers do the same thing, and they come over to our world, and they create their own lives in their area. So you have 4 different tribes in this general space of land.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they came over is because the one thing they love to do is play games with each other. So they're treating our land as a game, you know, as an RTS. You know, for those who don't know what it is, that's a real-time strategy game. So that's how they're treating our world. They give life to the land, and then they play a game. See who can take the most land, and who can take all the land at the end of the day. And so that's how they treat our world as a game. Now, they don't have physical forms in our world. They appear almost as phantoms, I guess. They don't have the pure energy to manifest as physical forms. So they kind of appear as they kind of appear as ghastly in some sense. It's that by building pyramids, okay, and they give their powers to the pyramids to help hold them together and act like if they had a physical form. And so they have these pyramids made for them so they can appear physical, and as long as they stay within a radius of energy that the pyramid emits, they will keep that form. Once they get slowly further away, they turn into a gaseous form almost.
Okay.
And yeah.
So you explained the pyramids.
Yeah, I explained the pyramids. Okay, and while also in this form, they don't have full power or full control of their power, because again, they give most of it to the pyramid, and they keep the rest for themselves. And so, one of the ideas that this universe of Pantheon had is that the gods get their power through prayer or through worship, and so that's how they recharge themselves as well. They get their subjects to worship them and pray them. Some do it through just prayer. Other gods, like Torch, do it through human sacrifice. And so they sacrifice people in the name of Torch, and he kind of almost like rejuvenates himself. And so this goes on for years. This chess game between who can conquer the most land, or who can take the most land from the other brother, and it goes on for years. Until it gets to the point where Keen and Zolis start losing. Like, big. They start losing a lot of their land. Okay, they're not super strong, and they're not super smart. The strength goes to Torch. He has immense power. He's exceptionally strong. And his younger brother, Mask, he's a smart guy. He knows how to strategize, and always be 2 steps ahead of their brothers. So they're winning. They're conquering most of the land, if not majority of their brother's land. And that ticks the brothers off. They start raging, I guess, in the gaming sense. It's like they're tired of losing, and they just want to end the game. They want to flip the table. And so one of the powers that these gods have is they enter our world, in which they possess, you can say, a human, and they get full control of their powers, 100% of their powers. And some of y'all might be thinking, why don't they just always do that? Because there is.
Why don't they just always do that?
Because there is a bad side to this, and that is, in this form, they can easily be killed by another god, or they can be killed by a human. It's a lot harder for a human to kill the god, but it can be done. When they're in the gaseous form, or their non-possessed form, they don't die. They don't age, nothing. But while they're in a body, they can die of old age. Of course, they'll live longer than normally, but they can die of old age. And they can be killed by another god. Hint, the only gods in this area are just the brothers. But, they can still be killed by a human if the human tried hard enough. So, they tend not to jump in bodies. Plus, while in the body, they could jump out of it. I call it banish themselves. But they get thrown back to their world, and they're locked out of our world for half a year.
Ooh.
And
the reason about that.
Yeah, and the reason that's a bad thing is because if you were to just jump out and be locked out of our world for half a year, you lost the game in their sense. You lost all your land. So that's why they'll never do that. As long as they're playing this game. But, again, the brothers tired of losing. So they decide to enter our world. And they possess their respective leaders' bodies from their city. And they only do it just to cause chaos. They don't care about winning anymore. They just want to flip the table. And so they start destroying cities, lands, everything. They create a crater, like a giant crater. And again,
is that the Yucatan Peninsula?
Yes. Yes, it is. And
I guess
so
I can understand where that giant meteor came from.
yeah. Well, I mean, they don't create that. The battle that leads down this path creates that crater. In which, because Torch and Mask, they want to keep playing. They're all about the game. Okay? So they team up together and they enter our world. They possess the bodies. And they go and fight Keen and Zolas. The battle's long, but with Mask's strategies and Torch's power, they're able to overpower them. They don't kill them, but they banish them. It's best described as they do an exorcism, I guess you can say. But they banish them to their world. Keen and Zolas, they don't return back because they don't want to play anymore. They're just angry, so they don't have. That's the only reason why they didn't kill them. One, again, they're their brothers. But two, they knew that they weren't going to come back because they didn't want to play anymore. And so, at the end of the battle, again, massive battle that creates the crater, both Mask and Torch agree to also perform the banishment on themselves. Because they want a fair game. They don't want this, bullshit overpower thing. No, they want to win through strategy. So they banish themselves and they're locked out for half a year. Everyone thinks the gods are dead. And so they call this day the Fall of Gods. And so half a year pass, Torch and Mask come back to our worlds in their respective areas, and they start the game over again. And everyone's excited, our gods did not die, or at least two of our gods didn't die. They're back. And so they celebrate this day. They celebrate the day of the fallen gods. And they treat that as a day of peace. So on that day, every year on that day, there will be no fights, no battles, no war will be done on this day. They will use this day to recharge and prepare for the next day. Okay? And that's important. Okay. That happens in the past. And so we jump into the future, and this is the current comic time. So this takes place around 1400, somewhere between the 1400 and 1500. Okay?
The comic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the timeline of this takes place somewhere between 14 to 1500. Okay. It's one day before the Fall of the Gods Day, which is the day of peace. And so Torch and Mask are trying to do all their fighting, all their battles on that day. So when the next day starts, they have the day of peace. And so Torch, he's sitting in his throne, getting information from his war chiefs, his generals. And one of his war chiefs comes in and tells them, "Hey, there's a little complications happening." And they ask him, what's going on? It's like, well, we have some good news. And he tells them that we've taken about over 1/4 of Mask's land. And so they're like, great, that's the most we've ever taken from him in years. And he goes like, yeah, that's great. But there's an issue. It's like, what's the issue? He goes, we sent our messenger out, and we haven't heard back from him. He was supposed to come back 5 hours ago, but he hasn't come back. Well, I mean, they're in enemy territory. Do you really think a messenger would come back? They're not trained to fight. They're not trained to battle. So probably just lost a messenger. Just send another one. And he goes, well, that's the thing. when the messenger came to us, he told us that when our army went into Mask's land, there was no one there. And he goes like, well, what do you mean there was no one there? It's like, well, okay, not no one. There was a few dozen civilians there that fought us. We easily cleared them out, but there was no army there. No guards. And he goes, well, I mean, a victory is a victory. We conquered the land, just call it a day. We'll celebrate tomorrow, on the day of the peace. And he goes like, well, I mean, no, because why hasn't our messenger come back? There's no one there to kill him. And that kind of confuses Torch too. He goes like, okay, there's no one there, and Mask basically gave us this land then. So he wouldn't do that. So that means we fell in a trap. Mask isn't going to give us the land if he doesn't already know how he's going to get it back, if not more. So he goes like, you know what? Tomorrow, there cannot be any war. There cannot be any battles. Send the scouts. Have them survey the land, see what happens. If we did fall in a trap, we'll prepare for the next day and get our men back, if any have survived, and take the land. And he goes like, okay, I guess, but what if it's not a trap? What if there's something else? It's like no, I know Mask. He probably just set a trap for us. We'll settle this all tomorrow. And so the next day arrives, and Torch sends the scouts out. We're like, okay, we'll send the scout out. We'll get everything ready for today. The day of fallen gods. We're going to do a sacrifice today. And as soon as the scouts get back, we'll settle our plans for tomorrow. The scouts were in task to go, search, and get back before the ritual, or before the sacrifice. Because no one dares miss the sacrifice. And hours passed, scouts are nowhere to be seen. And so the war chief is like, Torch, something's going on. Our scouts haven't returned. Only reason why is because they were killed. Mask broke our treaty. If they don't show up by the hour you gave them, it's not because they didn't want to. It's because they were stopped. So if they were killed, Mask broke our treaty. You can't let him do this. And he goes like, no, he would not dare break our treaty. He knows what would happen if he breaks his treaty. This is not him. And so he goes like, we'll do this ritual. I need to recharge. After this, I'll personally go and scout out. And so they do the ritual. They sacrifice someone in the name of Torch, and he's rejuvenated. During this, he gives a speech. He's giving the speech out that he always gives during this ceremony, but he added a little bit extra. He starts talking about the victory they had, conquering about over a fourth of Mask's land, something they've never been able to do for years, and they're celebrating. Right before Torch steps down, there's a big flash of light, and followed by a force of energy, and it's a strong force that even pushes Torch back, which is a little bit weird because he's not a physical, but it pushes him back. And the war chief is like, it's your brother, isn't it? Your brother has broken our treaty. And the war chief turns to look at him, and Torch just has this look to him, like, say one more word, and she dies, kind of a look. And Torch stands up from where he was, and he starts yelling to the wind. He goes like, Mask, we had a treaty. We both decided that we were not gonna enter the world, okay? That we were gonna do this, fair and square, by strategy. That you were not gonna win through power, but through strategy. It's like, this is the promise we made. And he hears nothing back. He doesn't hear anything, but he's still yelling. Just like, the promise we've made will be kept. So I ask you once and only once to banish yourself, and I will give your people mercy. I'll give him a quick death. You could come back in half a year, and we can redo this again. Start over. Redo this again. Start over. Nothing. If you do the world, and just like our brothers, I will fight you. But unlike what we did to our brothers, I will not show you mercy. I will kill you and your people, and I will have you watch me kill your people. But nothing. He hears nothing. And then he's about to start a new sentence, and all he hears is like a loud screech. And it's like a yell filled with terror. And out jumps Mask from the woods. And all he says is, "Brother!" And he's confused. Because he sees Mask jump out of the woods, but he's bloodied. And he's like torn up, like clothes-wise.
Is he in his god form or a human form?
He's entered the world. He's in a human form. And he's running down and goes like, "They killed them all. They killed them all. They're going to kill." And then you see a spear just fly towards him and stab him in the back. And it's a spear. Just, it's black. It's like so black that it's, looking at it makes you feel empty. It's like the color you would give emptiness. Just pure black. And Torch is like speechless. He's like, what the hell happened? Someone just killed a god, and it wasn't him. And he knows it's not his brothers, because he would have sensed them entering our world. So he knows it's not them, but yet he was killed. And so we go back to his brother, and he's laying there with the black spear through his chest. And then we see it pop out and fly into the woods. From the woods, a couple of seconds before the spear flies into the woods, you see 3 figures walk out of the woods. And they're dressed they're completely dressed differently from the people who live there. So you know that they're not from here. The best way I described it is that they're dressed like knights. Okay? One of them is dressed like a knight, like a paladin knight. Mm-hmm. The other 2 are dressed similar to what a war priest would wear. But they do have 3 cool things about them. And that's, they wear helmets or masks, depending on how I would want this to be shown. More of one wearing a helmet, the other 2 wearing a mask. But one of them is wearing the paladin is wearing a knight helmet, but it has a cross through on his face. But you can't see his eyes because they're covered with some kind of like stained glass. The one in the middle has is it like a voodoo doctor mask, like the bird masks, like they were wearing the Victorian? Doctor. Yes, that. He has one of those masks. The third being has a porcelain mask, like the ones that are fitted to the face, that show no expression. Half of it is white, the other is black. Okay, and those 3 entities walk out of the forest. The one that has the ivory mask, the one that's fitted to the face, black and white, he runs up to Mask, and to examine the body, and he turns back to the other 2 beings like, "Whoa, man, you got him right through the heart. I really thought that guy was gonna escape from us for a minute, but got him pretty good." And they're having their conversation, like ignoring their surroundings, and Torch is like furious. He goes like, "Who the hell are these people, and how the heck do they have the power to kill a god?" And so he yells out, "Mask! Mask!" Because he kind of doesn't believe that he was killed, and he's not getting anything back. And he goes, he's yelling, "Mask, get up! Mask, get up!" And the plague doctor being turns and tells him, shut up. He's like, we're trying to take care of business here. And then one of the knights turns to him and goes like, I wonder who that dude is. And they're like, well, from what this false god was yelling, I guess that's his brother. And he goes like, well, and from what that brother is yelling, I'm guessing this dead god is Mask. And then he turns and goes like, hey, is this your brother, god person? And he goes like, he's not answering back. He was like, well, I'm sorry we killed your false god brother, but we're gonna have to kill you too if you're his brother. And he goes, and Torch is not saying anything. And he goes, by the way, before we do kill you, what is your name? It's kind of rude to kill someone when you don't know their name. Kind of feel bad I killed this guy since I didn't know his name. He's not saying anything. He goes like, well, let me introduce ourselves to you, and then maybe you can show us the same courtesy and introduce yourself to us. Okay. Now, this gentleman to my right, he's a good brother of mine. We like to call him Glory. He's a man that knows how to wield a sword and the power to wipe out an army. Now, my brother to my left, he's a little bit different. I like to call him Gold. He can find the value of anything, use it to his advantage. Now me, I didn't choose my name. My name was given to me by a very respected man and a very respected king. But you can call me God. And he goes, can you, and then, Torch is like, who, like, these beings, like, how do they have this power? I mean, his name is God, another name is Glory, the other name is Gold. Whoa, my name is Torch.
I hate you so much.
He goes,
I'm just like, wait, hold on a second here. This sounds way too familiar. Oh.
And so, Torch is like, I don't care what your name, are, or what your name were given to you. I have many names, but today you can call me the Reaper, because I am dragging you to hell. And so Torch, or the god he's based off of, is known for wielding two kinds of weapons. One is said to be a snake made out of fire.
So
but that's what I basically made it, just a whip that has a snake head at the end, but it's completely made out of fire.
Okay.
And the other reason why the other weapon he wields is actually why they call him a hummingbird, and that's the blow dart gun thing.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so that's why they called him that's why his name partially translates to hummingbird, because when he would use that weapon, he was compared to a hummingbird. So those are the weapons he's wielded. And so when he gives that really cool line of, you can call me the Reaper because I will drag you to hell, he enters our world and enters the body of the war chief that was with him. And so, from a distance, all you see, like, a flash of light, and his whip extends, and they're, like, completely far away. Like, hundreds of feet away. But you see the whip just extend from top of his pyramid all the way down to the knight. And the knight just blocks it. And he goes, and they're like, whoa, that's very rude of you. And he goes, yeah, that's very rude of you. We're just trying to get to know each other. I'm not going to call you Reaper, sir. Because the only person that governs our death is my king and my lord, Lucy. She is the only one that will govern my death. You kind of know where that ties into.
Is Lucy Lucifer?
Yes.
Okay, no, I'm just like, I think that one's kind of obvious to me.
Yeah. And so, he goes like, if you don't want to give us your name, that's okay. I don't mind. I mean, I've already broke my rule here. I don't mind breaking my rule one more time. And so, they start charging in, and but they're a little bit weakened from the fight they had with Mask. I mean, Mask wasn't really powerful when it came to using powers. He was just very strategic. So I mean, he didn't like overpower them or anything. He just always was a step ahead of them and used that to his advantage, basically tire them out. And they kind of noticed that towards the end of the battle. I mean, towards the while the battle was beginning. And so the Torch is using his blow dart, but not blowing darts. He's blowing energy at them, and they're kind of having trouble, withstanding the force. And so the beings are like, hey, we should kind of retreat here. I mean, we just fought one false god. I don't think we have enough in us to fight another one. So, they're kind of deciding on where to go or not. But God, the being named God, is like, I want to see how things play out. I kind of want to stick in here. But they're like, like, no, I mean, we're not immortal. So, I mean, we kind of need to, get out before we die. And we would have to call him a Reaper. And then goes like, they don't want to go. But they're like, there's nothing they can really do to get any closer to him. So they start retreating. Torch is like, you're not leaving here alive. Or, there's only two ways they're going to leave here. Dead or, after they kill him. So he starts charging down. And they're walking back into the forest, and so all you see is like a big, giant, the same color as a spear. You see a giant, like a sphere with a circle shaped sphere, like engulf the forest, and all you hear is a voice saying, hey, if you really want us dead, come back. I mean, come look for us. We're not hiding anywhere. You just come find us whenever you're ready. Or we can come back and find you and kill everyone here if you want. But other than that, we'll see you later. Almost like in a jerkish, very talking down way, he's talking to Torch. And Torch, full of anger, just annihilates the forest, like wipes the forest out completely. And there's nothing there. Like they just vanished. And that's when you see like, okay, they killed a god, and they're not even gods. How did they do this? Maybe there's something else out there. They've always been stuck to that land, so they're not really connected to the rest of the world. So they don't know that other gods existed, or that they even existed, because as you go down the story, this comic, you find out that there is literally no gods left. Zeus and the Greek pantheon, gone. Egyptian pantheon, gone. Norse mythology, gone. And there's like very few gods laying around. They're all being killed. And so then Torch decides to set out and see who's doing this and who these three beings are connected to. Which you find out ends up being, I think I said king. I meant to say queen, because Lucy is a female in this. Mm-hmm. That is like the first issue there. And when I did say that the villains here were going to be based off the Seven Sins and the Four Horsemen, I based off, God, Gold, and Glory off of one of those. Death is based off of Queen Lucy. Everyone else has their own horsemen that they're based off, and Seven Sins are based off of. Okay. Gold is based off of the
Greek.
No, actually, based off of Lust and Sloth. The reason I based off Lust is because I went Lust off of lusting over something, like being passionate about having something that somebody else has, and that's usually what a lot of people find. Like they lust over the life that rich
greed?
people live. I I gave greed to the entity of God because of power. He's greedy for power.
I was gonna say no, and this is just like technically they're all you can interchange like the definition of all of them, like
yeah,
like wrath is just like the lust for anger, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I was like doing that's what you can say research, they each one had somewhat of a specific thing they tied into. Lust was more of a material thing. I thought greed was going to be, but according to my research, lust is connected to material thing.
So what's greed?
Greed was not specifically connected to material things. It is material things, but it's a combination of everything else, like greed for wanting someone else's life, wanting someone else's looks, something like that. It wasn't just based off of material things. Lust was.
So it's more like an material envy or jealousy.
Yeah, I also gave him envy. God. I gave him gold. I gave lust only because people love money and love rich people. And I gave him sloth because, no offense to rich people, I think they're the laziest people.
Don't tell them
that. God.
Can we bring Mark Cuban up on here one day? Hey, Mark Cuban, just want to let you know, rich people, some of the laziest people out there.
I also gave him the Horseman of Famine. Only because there's always that saying that rich people can fix, the hunger problem in the world, but they don't because they don't want to. So that's why I gave him famine as well.
Okay.
For God, again, I gave him greed for power, envy because you people are envious of his power, and I gave him gluttony. The reason I gave him gluttony is because I'm going off of the idea of that many in Dark Souls video game, people who don't know what that is, there is a there is a god there that his idea is to become more powerful. You must devour, like physically eat stronger beings to become stronger. And so that's why I based him, God, off of gluttony. Because he devours energy to become stronger.
I have a question about your pantheon.
Yes.
Is God the Judeo-Christian God, or is he a false god?
No, it's like I said, it's not a name he chose. He was given that name, God.
Okay, no.
He's not God.
I feel like...
No.
I feel like that's something Lucifer would do, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like, come up with your own... like make your own deity, and you're like, you're God now, and then the God's just like, yeah, sure, whatever you say, boss.
No, this is not the real God, or not God that created everything. This is just a powerful guy or powerful being that was given the title God, and so yeah, and I also gave him the Horseman of Pestilence because pestilence.
Okay.
Yeah, only because God.
I'm just kidding.
Well, no, because I was thinking of that. I thought of that character as being like a wizard or sorcerer, and just casting status effect spells, and treat them like disease in a sense.
Okay.
And then glory, I gave pride and wrath because those are the best things that connect to glory. And then I also gave him the Horseman of War, because glory.
Yeah, for glory. I mean, isn't that what people shout when they go into war?
Glory! Yeah, of course.
Please tell me that's where that phrase comes from. Oh boy.
But
okay.
But no, yeah, that is the first issue of my series.
That was a lot in the first issue.
Well, again, a lot of the stuff I did in the beginning, explain the past. Most of that would not be included in the first issue. That's just backstory I'm giving to the listeners, so that whenever I describe like oh, what does it mean by entering, or what does it mean about banishment, or why is this treaty of peace? That like whenever those topics are brought up in the comic, then they get like a little piece of that the past or backstory there.
Okay.
But mostly all of that would have been sprinkled in later issues as well.
So, this is the first time. This is only the third episode, and this is the first time that I'm going to admit that I like your idea better than mine. Partially, I want to say because it was fleshed out more.
Yeah.
But also because I really like your interpretation for this, because you really went all out when it came to like, actually interpreting it. Like for me, it was almost felt like cookie cutter. Like it's the same story, but now it's just being told a little different. But I didn't go in depth on how it was being told different, because I kind of wanted to play around more with like the mechanics of like how the gods work.
Yeah, but that's what I liked about yours.
Yeah,
I mean that's what I liked about yours. The influence of machine, and how they're not really gods; they're just beings that just come off of being superiors.
Right. But no, I really like it. Like I was thinking whenever you were talking about Torch's weapons, I was like, you're describing the snake, and I'm like, okay, if that was like an Anunnaki thing, like I would totally make like a plasma whip, or like a lightsaber, but instead of like the sword, it would be like a whip. And it's like, okay, and like the hummingbird. The moment you said hummingbird, I'm like, I thought of the needle shot from Halo.
Yeah,
and I was just like, dude, it's just fucking that. It's just like. And it fires so fast, it just sounds like a hummingbird, like flapping its wings.
Yeah.
But no, like I really like that, and I really like how you brought Pantheon into this, because it's like I forgot about that story. Like when we were like that was supposed to be like our next step in Sci-Star. Like we had Curse Quest, and then we were going to do Pantheon. But we decided to scrap it because we just kind of lost interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things, like, I think the real problem with it that we really had was that we had two different ideas, I think, is really what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I didn't want to tell you that I wanted to stop doing it because of that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I was saying is just, like, I didn't, because I don't like telling you like, like if I want to stop doing something, I kind of just stop doing it, and then it kind of just goes away. Like, I love Curse Quest, I really want to finish it, but I end up having like no time to do it. But for Pantheon, it was like, this is extra time I really don't want to spend on it, because I wanted to tell like this sci-fi kind of story, and I was basically forcing the sci-fi story elements into your story, and I kind of didn't like doing that anymore, because it's like it didn't feel like Curse Quest, where it's more organic and we knew what we wanted to do. We were doing two different things, and that's what this feels like. Like we're like me telling you my thing and you telling me your thing. It feels very different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like you said, we both like to influence our story with different genre. Like, again, I like fantasy, and you like sci-fi, and it is a little bit hard, because I mean the reason why we never got done anything with Pantheon is, I think, is because of that, because we want to try to add so many ideas to please both sides that they just don't mix well together. We're basically trying to do Star Wars, but it's not, it's too much is being thrown in there. Which, I mean, it's what Star Wars is.
Right. And it's one of those things, it's like, the way you interpret a god in any form of media, it's usually done in a way that is specific to that story. And so, I don't remember like how you portray gods. They're just, how would you describe them more or less?
Like, I mean, for me, I just see them as just beings that found themselves with power. Right? I mean, you can probably even argue that they were once humans that just found this power, and but I see them all as being just born either with power, with this enormous power, or being gifted it.
Right, and even with just those two basic concepts, they can be interpreted radically different.
I think we did a good job today.
I think so too. It actually went pretty well. Honestly, it went on not as long as I thought it was going to, because
Yeah.
I know that we actually kind of delayed this episode 2 times for our recording sessions.
Yeah.
Cutting a little close, but
I would say this is not going to be our most comedic episode. It's going to be
No,
more
I
of
didn't
a
laugh at
very
all.
passionate episode. Because, I mean, because I told John that I have like 10 pages of just backstory for the character. And I actually told him before we even started the recording that I actually just restarted. And I did that so I could condense everything down. And I did it down to 6 pages. And I skimmed like through most of it. So there's some information I didn't include in this. But, no, yeah, I mean, this is something I was like actually really passionate about. As if this was
Right.
actually going to be a thing. But, no, yeah, it's... You gotta have one of those moments, I guess.
I'm not going to confirm or deny what we're going to be doing for next week, because we might just discuss that in private. But here's a couple of options of what we might see next week. I don't know, David, did you want to expand on this a little bit more, or did you want to just drop it and try to do something else?
I guess over the week, the few days, if we can think of ideas of how we can extend this, we can go ahead and continue this. If not, we can go ahead and start a new topic.
I mean, if and this isn't set in stone or stone tech or whatever. That was a stupid joke. If this somehow gets out of the broadcast, I'm gonna murder David.
I'm gonna repeat that 5 times.
If you do that, I'm quitting.
Well, guys, I guess it's just gonna be me and you.
No, but I was thinking it would be kind of fun where like maybe we could expand on the Pantheon thing, where like we not the other Pantheons, but we might expand more on Torch and his stuff. Maybe that would be kind of fun, and I could talk to David a little bit about like adding some ideas of mine that I think might work for it. Or this is none of this is what's that word? None of this is
Set in stone.
I was gonna say it again. I was trying to think of a synonym for it, and then it's on the tip of my tongue. But, and this is just me, I really wanted to talk about something like this because when I was coming up with the story for the Deluge, I thought it would be kind of cool to do a horror story too, where it's a bunch of people on a ship and they're all surrounded by this creature, and they could die at any moment, but they don't know when and they don't know how they're gonna die. Because they don't understand it. Stranger Things is kind of around on Netflix right now, really popular. And me and David are fans of Doctor Who. Some of us haven't caught up, and I'm not calling out David, that's me. Some of us... I don't have time!
It's all good. It's all good.
No, but one of the things about Doctor Who is that it brings horror sometimes to the table. And I thought it'd be kind of cool. And I know it's not Halloween, but I did think it would be kind of cool if we did our own horror story. If you're cool with that, I don't know.
I mean, that would have been my second option. Of course, I would have gone a little bit more with the Stranger Things. Get it? Because of Stranger Things. But yeah, I'll cut this joke out, but I'll leave yours. But no, yeah. If the progression of our stories of our characters here is not as the second episode, then yeah, I would love to be able to do a horror story kind of a thing. Of course, might be even more thriller than horror.
It's one of those things. It's just like I don't know how many ideas you've ever written down or how many ideas you've come up with or whatever, but at this point I'm just gonna basically kind of like go through my old stuff from when I was a kid, high school and elementary school, and kind of just like reinterpret them. It's really weird when you read your old stuff and you're just like, this is weird, like really stupid.
Yeah.
But then you're just like, this isn't that bad if I could make it better.
I never wrote anything down, so I lost all those good memories or good stories.
I drew a lot of comics when I was a kid. I have a bunch of them. Like, I drew more comics as a kid than I have ever done as an adult, I think. A lot of first issues, not a lot of 20th issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can get the idea. So this podcast, I feel, is just the same concept. It's just sometimes you get an itch in your head and you gotta tell it to somebody. You gotta write it down. But you know it might not go anywhere. You just got to get it out somewhere. Well, I don't think we're going to argue or anything at the end of this one. I think we're just going to leave it like that.
I mean, I can find an argument for you.
We don't have to.
I think John said in the beginning of the episode that he liked Back to the Future. Problem there, he thinks Back to the Future is actually good. That's a big issue here. Very big.
Is your argument that my favorite movie is actually good?
No, my argument is that you don't have good taste in movies, sir.
I don't have good taste in movies. You're not offending me. I like... Oh my god, we're gonna lose so many... We're gonna lose all of our subscribers if we have any...
We're gonna lose two subscribers.
I like the 2016 Ghostbusters movie. Oh no, there they are. They're all gone now. I ruined it for everyone.
It's all good. I mean, it's not like we're saying we like the Fantastic Four movies, which I do.
The new one?
What?
The new one?
The new one? Yeah, masterpiece, man. Should have won an Emmy.
Oh boy.
Wait, they win Emmys, right? That's not the Oscars?
Maybe it's both. Hey, I wasn't being ironic. Were you being ironic about that?
I mean, there's only one way to know. Make an episode about it.
We're not ever talking... Okay, look, I can talk about Paul Blart Mall Cop because that's inherently funny. But I'm not going to talk about Fan Force Stick, okay?
Never say never.
Oh, no.
I mean, come on. If Justin Bieber says it, gotta be
We're
true.
done. We're done today, guys. Bye, everyone. Not doing it. Sorry.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you so much, guys, for listening to our third episode of the Infinite Canvas podcast. Now, we already padded enough time at the very beginning of our intro and kind of covered a lot during the episode. This has been our longest episode, and we don't want to waste any more time. So, I just want to let you guys know that we will be back on Tuesday, November 28th, and me and David are already talked. We are going to be talking more about our myths. We're going to be expanding on it, making it a little bit better, fine-tuning it, and hopefully we won't have a third episode of this. I know that it's really fascinating, but I hope you guys don't get too bored with sticking around with too many topics. So we'll see you guys next week.